Hey guys, welcome back to the Brothers Workshop. Today we're going to show you how we used reclaimed wood to build this modern rustic coffee table. So for this project we decided to go with reclaimed wood. We took the wood from a house in an up-and-coming section of the city that a buddy of ours was demoing. He asked us to come in. What we did was we took any kind of studs and usable wood from the home that we felt would add character to the piece of furniture that we decided to build. That's where you get the character in this piece. So once we chose the lumber, the next step for us was to sand them down. So being that these are over 100 years old, there was a lot of dirt and dust on them. So next step, we grabbed our belt sander, sanded them down to a point where we were able to work with them. We treated the coffee table pretty much as a picture frame. What I did was frame the outside first and then cut the center to sit inside. So in order to cut the frame, what we do here is we take each individual section of the frame and cut them at a 45-degree angle on both sides. The 45-degree angles naturally create a 90-degree angle, giving us this perfect rectangle that you see in front of you. So after cutting the 45-degree angles, what we did next was took each individual piece to the table saw, where we notched out about an inch. This created the picture frame style that we talked about earlier. So the center consists of two boards. To bring them together, we dovetailed them. We did this by cutting notches opposite each other. We were then able to glue them together. We added a few screws, filled them with wood filler. So once we had the center assembled, the next step was to take an inch notch out of each of the four sides. This gave us the ability to set the center into the frame, like placing glass into a picture frame. Once we had everything together, we drilled pilot holes in the center piece that would attach the center to the frame. Once we were done with the screws, we clamped the coffee table and let it sit overnight. So the next day, first thing we did was fill each screw hole with wood filler. Letting that dry for a couple hours, we came back and sanded them down. The next step was to take a heavy grit sandpaper and go over the entire piece, smoothing out any rough edges and getting it cleaned up. So now that I was convinced that I had gotten all the rough spots out with the heavy grit sandpaper, we took a fine grit sandpaper and went over the entire piece again. Once we were finished sanding, it was time to add the polyurethane. Now this piece has 3 coats of polyurethane. The first coat of polyurethane was added shortly after sanding. We let it sit for a night and came back again. We took that very fine sandpaper that we used prior and went over the piece again. Once we were done sanding, we brushed it off and added another layer of polyurethane. And we repeated this step one more time. If you guys didn't realize, the coffee table is not done. It's missing something. It's missing legs. Dave and I were talking, and we thought that instead of building legs, why don't we do something unique and different? But we don't do metalworking. Well, not yet anyways. We're trying to get into that, but... So, he threw out the idea of checking out a store on the other side of town here that sells all kinds of parts for tables, legs, chairs. It's a woodworking store. And he told me that they had some legs that might be up our alley, and we're just going to go check it out and see if they have anything that will keep to the aesthetic of what we like, that rustic industrial look. So I just left the woodworking store, and I was able to find exactly what I was looking for. These are going to be mid-century modern hairpin legs. They're not exactly rustic or industrial, but they're still going to give me the look that I'm going for. And there you have it. It was a pretty easy build. It took a little bit of time due to all the sanding and the application of the polyurethane, but it's well worth it in the end. A couple things to note: make sure that the wood filler that you have is right for the piece of wood you get. And the polyurethane actually darkened this coffee table. So the polyurethane probably made this coffee table about 2 shades darker than what it normally would have been if I didn't do anything to it, which kind of makes this wood filler pop. I don't mind. I kind of like it, but at the end of the day, everybody's style is different, and if you don't like this, then you're going to want to make sure that you get a darker wood filler, because the polyurethane will make your piece slightly darker. Not very much, but slightly. Be on the lookout for more videos coming soon. We're going to continue to build this style of furniture. We're going to continue to work on some cars, some trucks, and we have a few things up our sleeve for the future. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Till next time.